Okay, so I'm going to run through all of this exercise here, which you can see I've got put it out on the PDF, so I'm just going to move that over to one side and one by one go through each one. So the first thing, before drawing anything, I suppose we've got to make a new file. So I've got AutoCAD open already, and you can use the Start Drawing option here on the welcome screen, or go to the main menu, which is what I'll do, and choose New. And so then remember, AutoCAD ISO should be the template you use every time. ISO means International Standards Organization. And I'll just bring this down so again I can see AutoCAD on the screen alongside the exercises. So the page border isn't numbered as an exercise, but you still need to draw it just like you did in the geometry exercise. And so I'm going to use the ribbon here as well. So up until now, I know I've been encouraging you to use the menus at the top, but I'm going to disable those right away on the quick access toolbar there. I'm going to choose this option to hide the menu bar, because you don't need them anymore. You can do everything using the ribbon, and it's good to start looking for the tools you've been using on the menu up on this ribbon. It is a much faster way of working once you get used to it. So I'm going to click on the rectangle button, starting at 0, 0, enter, and then 27500, 19,000, enter, double click with the wheel, and I can see my border. We're not worrying about layers, so that's the border done. And then got to draw the exercise 1 rectangle shapes there. So again, with the rectangle tool, so I'll just move this over a bit. Okay, so with the rectangle tool, starting at 2,000, 15,500, and then the dimensions are 3,500 by 3,000. Oh, sorry, 2,000. Offset 500. So remember, the overall dimension is 1,000 greater, but that's on both sides. So on each side, it would be 500. So moving right along to the next exercise. Might zoom in a bit to make that bigger. So drawing a line, starting with the coordinate you've been given, 8,000, 15,500. With ortho on, makes this really easy. And so the next dimension is 17, well, if you work it out, so you just need another dimension there. So it's 3,000 on the outside, but 2,000 on the inside. So 2,000 up, 2,000 across, and then you come down 750. So you're left with 1,250 coming back the other way, and again 1,250 before closing it with C. And if you worked out how to join things together as a polyline, you can try that method, and that's what I'll do. So I'm going to use Edit Polyline here, select one of those lines, yes to turn them into polylines, choose Join, select all of them, enter, and then offset again 500, the outside. So the next one, I think I showed a lot of you, it's probably easier to draw using circles. You can do it with the arc tool, but if you use circles, I find it a little bit easier. So starting at the coordinate you've been given, 14,000, 15,500, and then across to the right, 750. Takes us to this corner point here, and then across another 1,250, do the maths, takes you to the centre point, because the radius is 2,000 minus 750 gives us 1,250. And now drawing a circle, snapping to the end of that line, for the centre and then the radius, and then the same again with another circle. I just need to draw a new line in to connect those two, delete the line going to the centre, trim, and then remove the parts of the circle that you don't need. And now, using offset, again 500, you can choose each of those arcs and the two lines as well, and then just need to draw in some new lines to extend those arcs, which would then be filleted in turn with each of those lines at the end. So I'm going fairly quickly through this because I'm hoping you can work most of that out, but then when you get to do the angles, I know there's a bit more involved. So drawing a line then from, again, the coordinate 18, 500, comma 15, 500. And if you remember your maths, you'd know an equilateral triangle has angles all of 60 degrees. So if you see two angles of 60 degrees, you know that the third angle must be 60 degrees. And so there you can turn on polar and make sure it's set to either 30 or 60. So 30 works well there. And now I can just take it across 2000. And again, if we have equal angles, all the sides must be equal. So coming back here at the right angle, I can type in the same distance again, 2000. And for the final side, I don't even need to give a measurement, C to close it. And this one again, I can save time by using Edit Polyline. Choose one of the lines, enter to turn it into a polyline, join, and choose the others. Enter, enter, offset, and again enter to accept the distance. 500 again, choose the triangle and click outside it. So again, moving right along. The next shape basically follows the same principle. So that's a right angle triangle though. So I can start with a line at the coordinate 2, 3, 750, comma 15, 500. Click on the line button first, that might help. 2, 3, 7, 50, comma 15, 500. And so here, if you have polar on and set to 30 degrees, you can simply move the mouse to create the line in the right direction, type in the distance, 2500, enter, come down, 1250, and then back to the start point. So that one shouldn't take long. Again, poly edit to join those lines together. And offset 500. So that's the top row done. Things get a little bit more interesting. You can draw exercise 6, starting with the coordinate you've been given. But I'm going to use the Polyline tool instead of drawing with a line. So it's good to think about when you can use the Polyline tool to make things easier. Let's move that over. So starting with the coordinate 2000, comma 10, 750. And then I'm going to turn ortho on because these are all lines at right angles. So I'm going to come up 750, across 1000, up 750, across 1000. Oh, sorry, across. Sorry, done that wrong. Can undo? That's all right. So up 1000. Sorry, and then across 750, down 1000. across 750, sorry, across 1000, down 750, and back 1000. So just keep repeating that, 1000 again, and across 750. Okay, so I've drawn that cross shape, and because I did it as a polyline, I can simply offset the whole thing 250 to create the outer cross. And so then if you saw the next cross has similar dimensions, you might have worked out that you can simply copy across the inner cross. The outer one won't help you much, but the inner one, if you work out the difference between these two sets of coordinates, it's 5,000 across. So you can copy, oops, doesn't matter where you pick it up, as long as you move the cursor in the right direction, type in 5,000, enter. And because I drew the inner cross as a polyline, I need to select that and explode. And so now I can simply use, well, I know I showed most of you using the circle method to draw the curves on the end, but I'll show you an easier way using arc, start, center, end. So it'll show you a bit about the direction you draw your angles. So remember, angles are measured anti-clockwise, and curves are drawn the same way. So here the start point would be on the right, then the center on the midpoint of that line, and then now you can see the curve comes around anti-clockwise. I can just keep repeating that. Start, center, end. Start, center, end. And so here again, start, center, end. So notice I'm going around in that anti-clockwise direction each time. If it causes trouble for you, just draw circles and trim them. Okay, so I've taken away those lines because they were just construction lines that we don't need anymore. And then you're given the radius for these inner parts of the curve. So again with fillet, this time I'm going to set a radius, 375. Enter each time to repeat it. Saves you having to click on the fillet button every time. So all those little shortcuts hopefully give you some ideas. And then with edit polyline, again I can choose one of these lines, enter to turn it into a polyline, and then choose join so that I can select all of the others. Doesn't matter, by the way, if I select the original one again. Enter connects them all, and now I can simply offset, enter with the same distance as before, and choose this offset in one go. So, same with the next couple of shapes. So starting this time on this corner point, that is the best point to start. So from there, oops, 12,500, comma 9750, cross to the left 750, oops, and then up 1,000 from memory, yep. And now it's good to have polar, but this time set to 45 degrees. So snapping there to the right angle, and this is really good practice working out how to measure angles. So I'm just snapping each time to visually what the angles look like. We know that there are 135 inside each angle, but that measurement doesn't tell you much other than that it's in increments of 45. Unless you want to do the maths and work out everything from first principles, but just by moving it to where it snaps is just as easy. So now down 1,000, back across 750, and that's as far as I need to draw on the outside, because then I can use offset to get the inner line. We know the distance between them is 750. Like that. Fillet to join those lines together. But remember to set the radius back to 0. And just like the other shapes, I can go now to edit polyline, choose one of those lines, enter to make it a polyline, join, and then choose the others. Now offset 750, offset 250, gotta set the distance again, choose the line there on the outside. Okay, so now again, a couple of triangles. These are a little bit different to the others because the angles are a little bit more unusual. So the method here is to draw the right angle first. Okay, so starting with a line at 17,250, 11,000. So I'll turn ortho on to draw across 4,000, and then just, yeah, so 4,000 you've got at the base there. Yep, and then just come straight up, so that gives you a right angle. And what these exercises are meant to show you is the basic principles of trigonometry. So if remember, trigonometry is all based around right angle triangles, and so by drawing a line from this start point again, okay, remember the symbol for angles is less than. So on the keyboard, shift and the comma key gives you less than. 22 is my angle, enter, and it locks it to that angle. So now I'll just take it. Yeah, near. See what happens if you click on a line, it'll snap. So if you've got nearest on, yeah, it'll look close to the angle, but it won't be. So yeah, so just the trick there, take it past any objects, and that'll get you around it as well. So if I click there, the line's longer than I need it to be, but once I fill it together with the vertical line, then we know it's the right size. And the next one you draw exactly the same way, just at a different angle. So the line button, 22500, comma 11,000, ortho 4,000 across, straight up, gives you a nice right angle. Then drawing a line again from the start point, locking it to 27 degrees. And the line can be any length, so it can be shorter than it needs to be. That's fine, because then I can use fillet and join those two lines together. So now just the final ones with the curves to draw. Oh, sorry, and the other angles. A little bit more working out with these, but again, it's really just to give you practice working with angles. And luckily you can do a lot of it with polar. So this one, drawing a line from that start point, 1250, comma 4750, and then coming straight across, helps a lot. Once you've got that baseline, then you can draw a new line starting from the same point with polar turned on and set to 45. Then make sure it snaps to that angle, type in 3000, and then you can come down, and it should even snap to the intersection of the line you're drawing and the baseline if you're doing it with polar. And now on the fly you can change it to 60 degrees or 30 degrees for polar, which will snap to 60. And then type in 3000. And then remembering the next line, if it's at a right angle to that one, should be 30 degrees from our imaginary baseline coming off to the right. So it'd be minus 30. And again, you can snap to that. So there we are, there's the point it should snap to. Oh yeah. Yeah. And then coming up, this time 2000. Cross to the right, 3000, and then coming back, this one is again an increment of 45, so I can just change polar there back to 45. Yeah, that would do the same thing. Yep, that's fine. Yep, typing in angles, there's 100 ways to do it. That's good to try different ways. And so now, just coming back across to the right, 2000, and I'm done. So this line can go now, we don't need to keep the construction lines. So the next one is a little bit more involved. You can't do it all with polar, but you still should use a baseline to make it easier. Okay, so starting at 1250, 1000. And this time, the best method is to put in a, like I said, a baseline to begin with. Coming across a fairly arbitrary length, and then I'll offset. So offsetting 2000 from that line gives us the second construction line. I'm now drawing lines from the first point and locking the angles by typing in less than, this time 28 degrees. And here, so I've set the angle to 28 degrees. Type in less than and then the angle. Yep. So less than is shift and the comma key. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. And so with this method though, it won't snap to the extension line. So you just have to take it past the point you want to draw to and come back and trim it later. So now I'll draw a new line from this intersection, and here it's got to go down, so less than minus 33. And again, past the point we need it to. So not snapping onto the line, it'll go to the midpoint. And then coming across, same idea, from that intersection. 52 this time. So I'm just starting a new line each time. And then again, less than, this time minus 27. So, coming up from the intersection there, and then perpendicular to the line above, come across 5000, and then you need to do a bit of working out. So I'll turn it ortho off so you can see roughly how it works. So remember, 0 degrees is to the right, 180 degrees would be to the left, and then we need to go 34 degrees beyond that. So it's 180 degrees plus 34, which is 214. So again, less than 214, enter, down to the left. And now one more line from this new intersection across 3000. Oops. So that didn't work. Let's do that again. Turn ortho on just to make it easier. 3000. And then you can just come back and tidy it up. No, 214. 180 plus 34. Yeah. So here I'm just using fillet to join each of these lines together all the way along, and then we can get rid of that construction line, and I know there's a little one there as well, and this construction line too. Alright, now these last few are kind of interesting, I think, because they might seem just like abstract drawing exercises, but when you need to do especially things like furniture that is based on curves, you need to follow a lot of the same principles that you're shown here. Also walls and other things that you'd be designing, but definitely you come across these forms a lot with furniture. So just give the start point again, 17250, comma 8750, and across to the right 2000. Right, so I've drawn a line the length of that dimension you're given, and then I'm going to offset it exactly. Offset 600. And so now at this point I can draw the first arc, just with 3 point. That's all right, it's all in the video, so you can come back. So, okay, so here, 1, 2, 3 points. The first one, 3 point. Yeah. And so then the next part of the shape is basically the same. We'll offset everything afterwards. So now I just need to draw this larger arc, which is again based on a construction line. This is just like the window shape that you drew before, the fan light, in the last exercise. So we'll come across 3000 and then offset this time 600. So did I say 600? 900, sorry. So it's 1.5 times, and that should keep it in proportion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's why the curve flows, the first curve flows into the next one, because they're proportionate. And so now everything can just be offset from there. So I'll just do that quickly. That's just a matter of using the different distances. So 250 between the inner lines, and then 100 between the outer lines. Right, and then when it comes to doing the ends, well, I'll delete this. No, yeah, I'll delete that line. We don't need that anymore. Deleted too much though. Just trying to delete the lines. Okay, so when it comes to doing the curves at the end, there are ways of doing it with an arc command, but I find it's far easier here just to draw a circle using 2 point. Because, and just think about this, when you're trying to draw curves, if you have 2 points that your curve needs to pass through, so here that's really what we have. We've got these 2 endpoints, and our curve needs to pass through those 2 points. So drawing a 2 point circle is always a good option there. So I can simply choose the 2 ends of my arcs, and that's done. And the same at the other end. No. But I will delete the lines now just to get it ready for the next part. And so to draw the outer circle or the outer curve, you could use the same method or trim first. 100. Oh, the inner line is 250 and then the outer lines are 100 apart. So I can offset now 100 from this arc that's left. It should line up exactly. Same on the other end. Okay, so that one's actually the easier of these two by a long way, because number 14, you have to think a bit more about it. It starts the same way. So drawing a line, and that's what you'll find is often going to be the case with AutoCAD. Drawing in extra lines to help you set things out is really one of the most common techniques you'll use. Just like you do when you're drawing on a drawing board. So I'm offsetting this line now 500. And now I'll draw the arc using 3 point the same way I did on the previous exercise, from the bottom to the top in the middle and then to the bottom on the right. But now I'm going to offset this one before going on to the next part. So I'm going to select the distance, which is 250 here. You can see that on the drawing over there. Okay, so 250. Enter, choose the arc and then come down. So the important thing to realise here is that the curve coming down on the bottom starts from the inside curve on the top. So you need to have this trimmed back before you can start the next one. So with trim, enter, and that'll make everything a cutting edge, and I can just choose the parts to take away. Now, you could just repeat that process going down to draw a new arc, but again I'll show you a faster way. Using mirror, I can choose the end of the line on either end and then just choose the other end of that line. Enter to say no, not to delete source objects. Now I'll select those new arcs and go to move, picking it up on the end of the longer arc on the bottom. I'll snap it to the end of the shorter arc on the inside to line it up. And following on from that, the last two segments in that diagram are just copies. So just copy all of this across now and draw some lines to close it off. And fill it maybe to do the other one. Alright, so that's almost done. The last few, the last two, 15, you're not given any location, so you can just by eye draw those where you can fit them in. So just drawing there with centre radius, circle centre radius. Just going to click a start point, type in the radius, which is 1000. Draw a new line from the centre of the circle, so making sure it snaps to the centre there. And oh no, sorry, I'm not doing this right. So I'll draw a new line, sorry, from the quadrant straight down, and then I'll draw another line from the midpoint there across 120, and then up with polar actually should work well there because then I can snap automatically to the circle. So that's done. Just need to hatch that in solid. And then the scale bar, that's a really useful thing that you should start to draw on all of your drawings that are at a particular scale, so that people have something to measure against. And it's fairly easy in AutoCAD because remember you're drawing everything 1 to 1. So if you've got a dimension here that is 500, when you're measuring off your plan, that's the size it'll be regardless of the scale you printed out. So it's like a ruler that you can just draw in with all your other objects, and you'll see as we do more things printed at various scales, it's a fairly easy thing to get right. So I'm just going to again click a start point for this and then type in the size, which is 3000 across, comma 500, and I typed 5000 there, so I'll do that and do that again. So clicking a start point, again 3000 across, comma 500, there we go. And then you can just draw lines across through the midpoint. But to offset the rectangle, I first need to explode that. Whoops. And then can offset each of those lines separately. So 500 for the first couple, and then 1000 for the last one. And then finally just hatch in the parts you need to. And so the very last thing is to put in a bit of a title block so that we know who's done it, and make sure you know how to use the text tool. And so here, the key to using text in AutoCAD is to make a text style first. It's a bit buggy if you don't set the height in advance. So on the format menu you can choose text style, or on the ribbon you'll see in the annotate panel here, I might just make that bigger so you can see this properly. So here in the home tab you can click on that annotation panel and there's a little A next to the first drop-down panel there, which will take you into the text style. It's one of the most common things you use in AutoCAD. So I'll click the new button there to make a new text style, and the name's up to you, but maybe title would be a good one. And so the height can be any of the heights you used in the previous exercise, so 250 or 350 or anything close to that. It's just a starting point. And apply, and make sure it's the current text style. So that's done, and I'll close this. So remember, under annotation, next to the first drop down list there, you have the little button that's got an A on it, which is how you make a text style. So I'm going to now go to that same annotation panel, but this time click under the text menu there and go to multi-line text, click 2 points, and then type in the text I want. So notice it has the height at the top there. We can adjust that, but I'll just put in some text with that initial height, and I'll show you how to change it afterwards. So that's the text I want in the heading, and then drawn by. Okay, so like I said, you can change the height even after you've made the text just by selecting it, and then you can type in a new height at the top there. So 350 might be better for the heading, and you can change things like the justification. So you can make it centered if you prefer, and then you can come back to add more texting. And as long as you've set the height properly, when you click to one side, it should remain there at the same size. So that's it. I'll finish the video there.